In this video lesson, we're going to look at currency exchange. This is actually an important topic for us because it's very useful in real life. We use currency exchange when we're traveling or in online shopping, for example. Currency exchange can also be thought of as another application of unit pricing, so another connection to proportional reasoning, and for many of us, it's important because it's a typical exam question. To start with, we need to understand that different countries have different local currencies. We have Canadian dollars, there are US dollars, there are euros, there are rupees, there are yen, lots of different currencies. And the values of the different currencies change as they relate to each other all the time. A Canadian dollar might be worth 90 cents American today, but we're worth 92 cents American a week from now. For currency exchange questions, we're often thinking of these as unit conversions. In this example, Mrs. Nicolo put a US $500 deposit on a cruise using her credit card. On that day, the credit card company charged Canadian $1.097 for every one US dollar. We're asked to figure out what charge she saw on her credit card bill. Well, let's start with what we know. We know that we have $500 US, and we want to convert this into Canadian dollars. This is an awful lot like the unit conversions that we did in Chapter 1, so we can think of this as a proportional reasoning question. We're going to set up a fraction that represents a relationship we know to be true. In the numerator of the fraction, we're going to put the units we want. So in this case, we're going to talk about Canadian dollars. And in the denominator of the fraction, we're going to put the units that we have. Right now, we have US dollars. When we look at the problem, we know that the relationship that we have to spend $1 and almost 10 cents, our 1.097 Canadian, to get $1 US. And now we're ready to perform the calculation. I'm going to take 500, multiply it by this conversion rate, keeping in mind that we don't have to divide by 1 since it won't change the value, and find the Canadian charge to the credit card bill. Your calculator will tell you that the charge is $548.50. Keeping in mind since this is money, it's appropriate to report this 2 places after the decimal. Sadly, Mrs. Nicolo had to cancel the cruise a few months later. Her deposit of $500 US was refunded, but now there's a different currency conversion. How much was refunded to her credit card? This question will work in very much the same way. We're going to start with what we know. We know about $500, and those units are US dollars. So in our conversion, we're going to have that same unit in the denominator, the units we want in the numerator. We're going to fill in what we know. 1 US dollar equal to 1.146 Canadian dollars, and perform our calculation. In this case, we see that Mrs. Nicolo had exactly $573 refunded to her credit card. And notice here, this is more than was actually charged. This is one of the reasons that people will often pay attention to currency exchange rates when they're looking at making purchases online. We'd like to see those exchange rates work in our favor. In many of our practice problems, we're given a table to refer to for several different questions. And the table will tell us the value of 1 Canadian dollar. So in this case, 1 Canadian dollar is worth about 99 cents US, but that same 1 Canadian dollar is worth about 82.4 Japanese yen. We also see the value of one of that currency in Canadian dollars. So 1 US dollar in this table worth 1.009 Canadian dollars, 1 euro worth about 1.37 Canadian dollars. Now we're going to perform another currency conversion. The question gives us Japanese yen. Notice that symbol in our table. So the units that we have will go into the denominator. The units that we need go into the numerator. And now we have 2 choices. We can talk about the value of 1 Canadian dollar being equal to 82.413 yen. Notice we don't do any rounding off. Or I could just as well fill in 1 yen and the value of a Canadian dollar in comparison. Either way, we should still find the same value in Canadian dollars. In this case, finding out that 230 yen has a value of $2.79 Canadian. With that example in mind, go ahead and see if you can figure out how to convert an amount of money from US dollars into euros. Keeping in mind this table uses Canadian dollars, so we might want to switch to Canadian dollars as a midway step. Press pause, and when you're ready to check your answer or get some hints, continue the video. Our strategy then is going to be to start with US dollars and convert into Canadian dollars, so the units in the denominator US dollars, the units in the numerator Canadian dollars. And some students might stop there to find out how many Canadian dollars we're speaking of. Once we know that, we have Canadian dollars, we want euros, and so we'll use that conversion factor. Keeping in mind with this table of value, you might choose two different conversions, but they're still equal and that's okay. For this example, I chose to use the idea that 1 Canadian dollar was equal to 0.991051 American dollars. And at this stage, the math is suggesting to me that we have 449 Canadian dollars. Once we have an amount in Canadian dollars, or if you like, you can continue straight into converting into euros, we can use the relationship that 1 Canadian dollar is equal to this number of euros. And we find out that $445 US is equal to approximately 326.58 euros. Keeping in mind, if you choose to find this midway number, the best idea would be to leave the entire value in your calculator rather than rounding off. The only other idea related to currency exchange that we need to discuss is the bank buy and sell rate. The rate that you pay when you exchange currency not only reflects the relative value of the two currencies, but a small difference that allows the company exchanging your money to earn some profit. So when we look at the bank buy rate for US dollars, for every 1 US dollar you bring to the bank, they're going to give you a little bit less than $1 Canadian. But if you go to the bank to buy US dollars, they're going to look for a little bit more than $1.05 Canadian for every $1 US they sell you. The difference between the two allows the bank to earn some money. So let's look at an example. Leah comes home from a trip to India with 750 Indian rupees that she has not spent and will convert back to Canadian dollars. We need to figure out the value of her rupees. Well, the bank is buying the rupees back from her. So here's the exchange rate that we're looking at. And this is the value in Canadian dollars for 1 Indian rupee. Press pause, try the conversion, and then continue the video to check your answer. In this case, Leah's going to get just a little bit more than $13 Canadian back when she performs the exchange. Here's our last example. Jason wants to give his son 250 euros to spend on a school trip. The bank is going to charge him about $2.37 Canadian for every euro. The money exchangers at the airport are going to charge him about $2.42 per euro. We're asked to figure out how much it would cost Jason if he procrastinates and waits to get the euros until he drops his son off at the airport. So in other words, we need to know the difference. Let's start by finding the two different costs in Canadian dollars. Press pause, and when you're ready to check your answers, continue on. When we set up our conversions, we have a known number of euros, so the units that we have are going to go in the denominator. We want to know the cost in Canadian dollars, so Canadian dollars will go into the numerator. We find out that it's going to cost Jason $593.25 to buy 250 euros at the bank, or $603.75 to buy the euros at the airport. In other words, it costs $10.50 more to wait and buy the euros at the airport. We have three big ideas here. Firstly, currency exchange is a lot like unit conversions. We can think of this calculation like proportional reasoning, where we're using a fraction involving the units we want over the units we have. We also need to know that the value of currency is constantly changing, and that there's a cost to exchange one kind of currency for another. With those ideas in mind, go ahead and try some of your assigned practice.